press, interested guests, I'm here to talk to you and give you a situation report on our actions following the announcement from Prime Minister Harper last week concerning our participation against ISIL, or ISAF. It's the Islamic State of Iraq, and I'm going to put this in the context of a military briefing, which is situation, mission, execution, administration, and command and control. The situation, as you know, is a serious one and has been described as various authors that ISIS has been called a demonic force, one of the best equipped insurgency or terrorist groups in the history of the world, having procured weapons that were once supplied in Iraqi forces by the United States but later abandoned. It's also been reported that heavy-duty weaponry left over from the overthrow of the Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011 fell into the hands of extremists after the NATO intervention, which Canada also took part in. That's our situation. We know that the havoc that is being created. Our mission that the Prime Minister has given the Department of National Defence was to send 6 fighter aircraft, 2 Aurora surveillance aircraft, an air refueler aircraft, and 600 troops who will help launch these aircraft in the fight against ISIS into Kuwait. So as you know, we've been staging out of Kuwait and flying missions with a U.S.-led coalition. The United States has secured the support of 5 Arab nations, plus Britain, France, and as days go by, other nations are joining this particular mission. The Islamic State has been fighting against the government of Syria since 2012 and launched an offensive in Iraq in June. Our Prime Minister in the execution we have called this Operation Impact, and during the execution of this particular mission, the Prime Minister has dedicated these forces to missions within the state of Iraq, as opposed to the work that's being done in Syria. We have had experience in the past with missions in Libya and Kosovo, so we are prepared to take this mission on. There has been some opposition amongst the ranks of the New Democratic Party and the Liberals, and some discussion has taken place in Parliament, but the mission was approved by Parliament and is in addition to humanitarian aid, technical support, financial support, weapons training, and other ways Canada has been involved in this particular conflict. The administration of it, as I said, we are staging out of Kuwait, and our forces are being deployed from that particular staging base. The command and control is exercised through the Prime Minister's office and starts with a 30-day mission and an anticipation that this mission will go for at least 6 months in supporting the U.S.-led coalition. That concludes the official part of the briefing, and at this point in time, I would like to take questions from members of the press and others. Mr. McLeod.
Thank you, Major. Richard McLeod from the Bureau Royal Gossip. My question to you, sir, is there was a briefing yesterday, and the General was mentioning that our CF-18s had bombed some dump trucks and construction equipment. So my question I put to you is, with the limited military budget that you have all been saddled with from Parliament, is it the best use to be shooting our very expensive bombs to hit a dump truck and a shovel loader?
Very good question. Thank you, Mr. McLeod. The position of our Prime Minister has been that we will not stand on the sidelines while a force like this is wreaking havoc on the world. So he has put up his hand for Canada to get into the air-led coalition with the United States and run these missions. We are attacking at this point in time equipment and facilities that are in support of ISIS, and as you may have known from other reports, they have taken over the town of Fallujah and are using that as a base for their operations. So that is one of the targets to look at paralyzing their infrastructure. We understand this is not the total solution, but we have joined the U.S. to make it very clear that we are not going to stand idly by and watch these attacks take place against civilians, including the beheading of journalists and others who are innocent in this mission.
What's this costing the Canadian public?
The estimates of cost are still coming in. We have done operations like this in the past, and obviously money will be needed to be dedicated from Parliament to this particular mission, as we did when we went to Afghanistan. But at this point in time, with 6 CF-18s and 600 troops, we're not looking at a huge amount of money compared to what we spent in Afghanistan. Mr. Farquhar.
Daryl Farquhar, the Esquimalt Tattler. When do you expect the mission to end?
Well, currently we have committed to the first 30 days and anticipate going at least 6 months. Beyond that, it's where the government is not making a commitment beyond a 6-month point of engagement.
Derek Johnson, the Langford Lazy and Coffee Time. You had mentioned the beheadings. Is the government not worried about retaliation, that it's going to come back and haunt?
Certainly the government is aware that there may be retaliation, but we're also aware that as a part of North America, we are already a target of this group, and that the threat is very real to those who are not on the side of the Islamic State.
I have one question. This is the topic very controversial because in the world I have very clear what is the activities, military activities to Canada. Every time Canada participate in the peace mission. But now what is the reason to participate directly in one war?
That's a very good question, and that question has been raised with the government before concerning peacekeeping. The government traditionally has been involved in a lot of peacekeeping operations, but has believed that the world has changed. The peacekeeping operations normally have taken place when two countries have agreed on a resolution or agreed not to engage and have a ceasefire. In this particular case, there is no ceasefire. There is no immediate prospect of peace, and it is felt that we must join our allies, and our biggest ally is the United States. And people have been quoted as saying the United States is a bigger ally than NATO, as an example. NATO is not somebody who's going to come to our aid in combat, but certainly the United States is. So we are joining the United States in this coalition because we feel it is a threat to freedom in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, our time has ended. I'm going to thank John